Okay, in this video, I'm going to show you how to use a drop spindle, or at least how I was taught. I'm not an expert at it. I've only been doing it a few times, even though I learned how to do it a long time ago from the Minnesota Textile Center. And, you know, this is the Dogbane fibers that we worked, that I showed you how I processed my last video. And this is the drop spindle that actually has some of the Dogbane that has been processed and spun into yarn or twine. Okay, so you can see that at the bottom. And this is good to spin it into yarn or twine versus using it raw like this for finer projects, like, you know, making fabrics, cloth and things like that. Put it through a loom or weaving it and such like that. Now binding or knitting, that sort of thing. Now binding is actually a Scandinavian way of knitting, but with one needle. Okay, more on that hopefully later. Let's see here. The other tools that I'm going to be using is a pair of flick carders, and you can get this online. These online at any place that sells, you know, processing wool into yarn product store, weaving store, fiber arts store, I should say. And these are of course kind of modern tools, or they are a modern take on an ancient tool. Let's put it that way. So maybe I can get to the point where I can make a primitive version or one from scratch. But these have steel teeth in them, like a brush, and they're curved towards the handle. So they are the ones that make the yarn, excuse me, not the yarn, but the fibers of whatever your medium is, whether it be wool or flax or dogbane or nettles, soft. And then you process them to further to get them ready to spin. And then this, using those flick carders, is what these Dogbane fibers here end up looking like, actually. But this actually goes a little further. These are real nice and fine, really nice here. So I'm going to get started, and I'm going to show you my method again for you fiber arts aficionados and pros out there. I'm just a novice. I'm just archiving this for my own purposes, really. But if you're inspired by this, or you gain something by this, or if you have some tips or tricks that I'm missing as a novice, please feel free to share. And I hope that if you do get something out of this, or inspired by that, it'd be nice to drop something in the tip jar. Just a little something. Those links will be below. That would be great, because I did take a class to learn how to do this, so that did cost me money myself. So there's plenty of more seasoned pros out there that have tons of videos on how to do a drop spindle, and they probably would explain it in a different way, and they have better camera angles and lightings and stuff like that. I'll put a couple of links on some people that do some pretty good videos that I've used as a reference to remind me on how things are done. So without further ado, let's get to it. Alright, before we begin, I'm going to talk a little bit about the spindle. This is a top drop spindle, and this is the spindles, hand spindles. Hand spinning has been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. The spinning wheel spindle is relatively new in the length of our civilization as a species. And there's many different types according to archaeologists. You know, I know in Peru, and I've seen, and I've done my research, I've seen spindles of many different shapes and sizes, and some are bottom heavy, you know, when you spin from the top, and as you drop it, or, you know, you let it drop, and then you while it's spinning, it's twisting the fibers, and then you do top spinning, and this is top spinning because of the hook here. This spindle is one I've had since a class I took at Textile Museum / Educational Center, and I still have it, and we're learning how to hand spin yarn. So this is the one that I got. This came with the class, and and it's pretty much just homemade, but it's a nice piece. You know, it works perfectly. We got a wooden dowel or shaft here. We've got a leader attached to the shaft, and we have what's called a whirl, or a weight, which is also a stopper where your fibers will collect. And then at the top is a hook. Okay, and I will probably, no, not probably, I will make one primitively. I've seen a few examples that are actually pretty cool, pretty nifty, and they work pretty well that way. I just want to get better at the technique. I'm still a novice at this. I have some experience spinning yarn, but again, it's not anywhere close to somebody who's been doing it for years and years and years. But I got a whole bunch of Dogbane that I hope I can get through, and by the end of processing it into twine or yarn, I should be fairly good at it. But I just wanted to give you the anatomy of what we're actually going to be working with for this video. Again, you've got the hook, you've got the whirl or the weight, and you got the shaft, and in this particular design there's a leader where you attach your beginning fibers to. And this hooks on, and it's got a groove in here, and it hooks onto the groove in there, and your fiber goes in there. This goes around the hook like that, and it spins like that. Okay, and then you wind your fibers onto it like that. Okay, so yeah, let's get started. Okay, so we're going to begin spinning by carding or flick carding our raw material here, which is Dogbane fibers. So my last video, I showed you how I extract these fibers from the dry stalks, and I've got a ton more in my garage that I want to try to get through. My goal was to get through them last month. It just didn't happen, but I got through a quarter. So we'll see what happens today. But anyways, I'm gonna get plenty of practice. I'm not an expert at this. I have some experience of drop spindling wool or animal fibers, which is completely different than plant fibers. And I find plant fibers a little bit more difficult, but maybe that's just because I'm new at this, and I'm more or less doing my own research on how to do this with plant fibers. So the method I'm going to do is I'm going to flick card these raw fibers. There's still some shaft on there as they are. I could reverse twist these as they are, and they'll be perfectly serviceable cordage. It just takes time. If you want something a little bit more finer for knitting, now binding, or and then eventually weaving, then we want to make some thread, twine, or yarn. And so that's what's, having a spinning wheel or a a drop spindle comes in handy. And so Dogbane and other plant fibers lends itself well for this process. Anyhow, so I have some flick carders that I bought some years ago when I did take a drop spindle class at the textile center, the Minnesota Textile Center. And they've got tons of classes on fiber arts, from the big looms to smaller looms to spinning with a big spindle. I mean, dyeing with plants, making colors out of plants. Tons and tons of classes that I'm just itching to take. I'm just on that, just got thirst for knowledge, especially things that are primitive, so to speak. So anyways, this is a class I took many years ago. So I'm going to regurgitate some of the information I have here. There's lots of jargon and lingo in the fiber arts world. Some of it I remember, some of it I may have forgotten. So you guys out there that are very familiar and are masters at this craft, forgive me if I muddle over some things. And obviously, I'm open to constructive criticism, critique based on my technique in this, or really any of my videos. So anyways, enough of that. So what I'm going to do is I want to start to break up these fibers and break up some of the shaft. Now what I am on is I'm on a tarp here, because if you're doing this in the house, what will happen is these fibers will still give off the shaft and extra fibers and stuff, so it'll make a mess. So what you want to do is I'm going to take this bundle here, and I just split this up into smaller bundles, and then I'm just going to start to brush. Now there's 3 ways to do this, and this is the first way is just kind of lay them on the flick carder or the carder and just pull. It doesn't lend itself very well for that. Wool does. Or you can brush like that, or you can kind of pick it like this. So this is flick carding. So I'm carding it, but I'm also flicking like that. And wool, raw wool can be quite dirty. The animals, you know, it's this dirty. It comes out dirty. It's not the nice fluffy white. It takes a process to clean it. Shear the sheep, clean it, and then get to a point where you can start to straighten it and flick carding it out, and that's where you get the nice white wool from sheep. So notice I've got my flint knapping pad, my leather pad here, which is vegetable tan cow hide. I think this is about 8 ounces. That's the weight that leather comes in, so it's a large weight. Holster weight, basically, for making gun holsters and such. Or denim works. I could do in my jeans here, but I don't wear too many jeans, so I'm trying to keep these relatively clean. I wouldn't do this on your raw leg or on a nice outfit, so that's why I have this as protection. You could also have cut off a jean leg and use that as the same as my flint knapping pad here. On the flint knapping pad, there is a skin side or a shiny side, and then there's a suede side or a rough side, or the side that was part of that was next to the flesh of the animal. So this is the side I'm using because I don't want to dull the teeth on my flick carders, which is essentially a brush. So anyways, I'm just going to brush out like this, and as I'm getting rid of a lot of the shaft and the bark, I'm also collecting pieces that we'll actually use as well. But you can see how fine these fibers get from Dogbane. It's really nice, and they're very long, as you can see, which gives to its strength. All right, so I just want to kind of clean this with my flick carder. Now, while doing this, I'm going to pick up pieces of the I'm going to pick up these pieces here, which is what we kind of want to start to work with, right? I'm going to go up a little bit more until I'm basically loading my flick carder. So basically, or excuse me, my carder, I'm basically loading. So when it's not taking anymore, so it was loaded like that, I'm going to take my other one, and I'm going to start to kind of brush them out against each other, okay? And I can kind of alternate like this, just kind of, and this helps get rid of additional shaft. But what we're going to start to do, what we're trying to do is create the start of what we'll be actually spinning, but still doing in the process of cleaning. Okay, I don't have an extra camera person, so I can't zoom in and out, but I hope you can kind of get the idea. So now I have this on my flick carder. I'm going to take this. On this side, it's kind of still dirty. There's lots of shaft and woody bits that I'm going to start to just brush them out. That's why I say you'll need a tarp, because this gets messy. Also, you're going to be kicking up some dust. So if you have allergies to these kind of plants, or if you have respiratory issues that are triggered by dust in the air, it's best to have a fan going, or do this outside, or have a respirator on or something like that, so that you don't injure yourself or have some sort of respiratory distress. So we flipped over the other one. Now I'm gonna flip over this one, just like flip it over a pancake or a hamburger. So I'm just brushing like that. And depending on what you're using this for, if I was trying to really go for some real nice soft yarn or twine to weave into, I don't know, like a jacket or a blanket or a scarf or something, I would be very fastidious about this. I want every little bits out of this, because this is what would be the irritant, because it's scratchy. You don't want any wood bits on your clothing, which would be the same for sheep, right? You don't want nasty bits and mud and dirt and burdock burrs and all that in your end product. Flip this over, do it again. I'm doing this about 3 times. I'm not gonna use this for any sort of garment making yet, so I don't care if there's little bits in it still. Okay, so we've got our fibers carded, and so now what we want to do is we want to make what's called a rollag, okay, which is kind of our beginning bit. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of go against the grain a little bit to push the fibers over and and kind of like a ball, or excuse me, a roll. Okay. And kind of pull these like that, and it becomes a nice cottony roll like this, very nice and light. Okay, if I did that properly. I'm out of practice. Or actually, these fibers, again, I got to keep in mind that these are plant fibers and not sheep fibers. All right, I hear cotton is hard to work with too. Cotton comes in balls as opposed to long strands, long strips. So this is one rollag. I'm gonna set this aside, and then we've got another rollag that I can just kind of take and just kind of push. You see how it folds into a nice ball? My left hand seems to be better at this than my right. So this is what we want to start with. Again, it's not perfect. You can see little bits in there. If I was going to make a garment out of this, but we would shoot for no bark or bits, but this will work for this little project, for what I'm showing here. So I want to continue making more rollags, okay, basically until I'm out of the piece that I'm working at. Okay, so again, just gonna be doing this for a little while until we work through this whole piece, this whole strand, this whole bunch of fibers. I'll go from the other end. Basically, I've loaded this up, and again, I can kind of start to card this out. Okay, so from a distance, I've got these carded out. I'm gonna just go ahead and make my rollag. And sometimes doing this, you can kind of do both at once. Actually, I think, if I remember correctly, the proper way is to just do it on one. So, again, you true spinners out there, you correct me, and I believe that's how it's done. I've done some research. I didn't really see anybody that I've looked on the internet, or basically YouTube, that shows how to properly flick card, at least the way that the instructor that taught the technique when I took the class showed us how. So I think you kind of want to smear all of them on one and then push. Yeah, that's it. That's correct. Now it comes back to me. Most of them, but both ways seem to work anyhow. So there's a rollag here. We can set aside. And again, I'm just setting aside a bunch of these as I work through my strands. Now as I'm doing that, you're actually getting to see how fine these fibers are and how clean they're becoming, right? This would be perfectly workable, but you'd see that would be a lot of waste. So we're going to use that, and it's just as serviceable. So we're going to just go through this bit here, and actually we could probably just card these as is. Alright, so this is a pretty nice, soft and fluffy piece of rollag from the straight fibers that we got. Now, something to mention on these flick carders is the teeth go towards the handle. Okay, both of them, the teeth go towards them. They're bent towards the handle. Okay, so that's why you can pull them apart and it's like they're tearing each other. But then when you're going with each other, they go opposite this way. But when you're doing this way, they're fighting against each other, and when you do this way, they're going together. So, and then you store these by just putting them together, and then I have a rubber binder and I just wrap them up and store them so they stay protected. Okay, so I have a lot more to work through, but just for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to continue with what we have. Okay, so I'm going to work some of the... Alright, so the next stage, now that we have our rollags, okay, so our small ones, we're going to make them into longer ones, okay. I think there's another word for that, I'm not sure, but I can't remember exactly. But, and I suppose I could look it up, but I didn't take the time today. Anyhow, what you want to do is start from one end, and you want to pinch your fibers. Now, sheep wool is longer. Plant fibers are shorter. So if you want, this next part determines the thickness of your yarn or your twine. Even if this was sheep wool, as fine as if I want a real basically string, I'd have to take my time and make it really, really thin. Okay, if I wanted something thicker, I don't have to do all that, right? But for these plant fibers, I just want to start to pull them apart just slightly, because what's happening is this is coming apart already, right? But whereas wool takes a while before they break apart. Now there's another point I want to make before we start. Here is some carded fibers of Dogbane here, and by itself, no twist. This is extremely strong. Okay. Now if I start to pull it, widen my hands, and I start to pull them apart, what happened? This is a long piece of fiber. Is what they'll start to slip. They'll slide. Okay. So by adding a twist to it, when we do reverse twisting by hand, that's what binds everything together, which is essentially the principle of spinning or drop spindling or using a spindle. So I wanted to save this just to show you why we're stretching out the rollags. Okay, but I wanted to give you a close-up of this just so that you can see what we're doing. And since this is really small, I kind of have to just kind of play it out, kind of suss it out little by little. Not too much, because this tends to fall apart very, very, very easy. All right, and that's fine. Joining or splicing is not hard and it's easy to do, but it's kind of a pain at the same time while you're working. Once you get the flow in this process, you kind of don't want to stop, but you just want to pull it apart. And so what we're having is a longer bit like this, which is what we're going to use to spin, right? But the way that we carded this out allows us to kind of get this prepared like that. Okay, so this is what we're doing. So this is a very important part. And again, how thick you do this or how thin you do it will determine the actual diameter of your finished product. Okay, so, and what I like to do is I like to just, you know, I don't want to roll these or anything. I just want to kind of give them a squeeze so that they kind of stay together. Like I said, this tends to want to fall apart while you're working it. So I'm finding out that by squeezing this a little bit, I get a piece that will maintain its integrity while I'm working with it, while I'm trying to spin it. So this takes a while, but you know, I'm just taking one rollag and doing this. I'm going to do them all so I have them all ready to go. And we got, so far out of that bundle that we started with, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got 6 to do. And then I have another bundle to work of Dogbane fibers. And then bring in some more stocks and process some more and work through them. Because it's springtime and spring cleaning time, and that garage, I need to, you know, organize my little nest out there and make projects out of them or get rid of them because they're just taking up space. So you saw that actually broke in two, which is not a big deal. You know, it's going to do that. So at least what I'm finding out with Dogbane, or maybe it's just me being inept at this, a novice at it, but that's okay. That's part of learning. So again, I'm gonna take another rollag and do the same thing. Now you can kind of see a larger view of what this looks like, or long, you know, versus a close-up. And depending on the consistency of your rollag, you may have to be a little bit more gentle with it, or you can actually you can pull this out fairly long, right? And again, I just want to take this and set this aside here. Got a little tidbit that's left over. So yeah, so I'm going to continue doing this until I'm through with each one of these, and then we will get to spinning. Okay, so on the last rollag that I did with the longer fibers, these are acting more like, you know, animal hair or wool. So I can kind of pull these a little longer before they start to break up too thinly, right? So that, just to give you some compare and contrast. And what I'll probably try to do is mix these in with the shorter fibers and the longer fibers. Okay, so you can see I can kind of pull these out a little longer. The other ones were quite short because they were shorter fibers, but I didn't want to throw those away, right? And carding with wool, there's like the carded wool pile that you're going to use, and then there's the discard pile, or maybe you do something else with it, I do not know. But you know, not with this hard-earned, hard-got fibers. I'm not just throwing it away. There's always going to be some sort of use for it. You know, it can't always be ideal, or at least I would go through a fragment or a fraction of what I've harvested if I only went for the best part. But it'll all work. It'll all come together. So this is what we got as a rollag. Oops, a piece dropped off, and that's fine. It's easier to just piece them back together again, and like I said, I just kind of squeeze them so that they have some integrity. This will have a lot more integrity than the others, but you know, joining them back together is not a big deal at all. Alright, so we have our longer rollag here, and we're going to attach it to our spindle. So this spindle has a leader out of twine here, like cotton twine, I reckon. And I think, primitively speaking, rustically speaking, if I was to build one from scratch, a spindle, which I'm liable to do, I would probably do this with some fine reverse twisted, you know, cordage, probably nettles, just so it's green and you can tell what it is. What it different from twisting other types of fibers. Anyhow, what you want to do is with my, with your rollag, and I'm doing a close up because I can't zoom in and out. This is the leader. I want to take the rollag and I want to kind of just fold it over it like that to attach it. That's really it. Okay, and then we're going to find the notch in the whirl, which is also operates as the weight right there, and we are going to insert the leader into the notch and the hook like that. Okay, so the notch and the hook is where we stop and where we start from. Okay, so this is actually attached. The fibers are attached there, and we're going to do a spin. So, and the spin is going to, that's the important part, is going to transfer up into our fibers. So that is the key to drop spindling. Like I explained earlier, and if you do reverse twisting of natural fibers, that's basically what we're doing, is we're putting a very tight twist into our fibers to make twine or yarn. So I am right-handed, and I learned to do this on my left leg, which is going to spin the fibers clockwise, so to my right, and so to get this started is I want to take this and I want to spin this, and we're going to do what's called so what we're going to do is what's called a park and draft technique, which is a very beginning technique. Very experienced master spinners can really do this and make it look real smooth without parking. Okay, and parking is putting it between your knees to stop the spin, but it's park and draft, right? Park and draft. So we're going to park and we're going to draft or put the twist into our fibers. So it's all about the twist. Okay, so it's park and draft is the technique. Experienced spinners, hand spinners, can do this seamlessly, and it really looks kind of like a human arachnid making, it's their web. It's really kind of cool. Maybe I'll get there one day. Right now I'm not there, but that's fine. Anyhow, I'm gonna push this away from me, and it's gonna put a spin on it like that. And then I just kind of want that spin to start to work into our rollag. Okay, so I'm gonna park it, and then I just want to let this kind of spin the twist to work into our fibers here. Park it, and then let it work into our fibers like that. It's basically transference of energy, so to speak. And you really can't get this too tight. Okay, so I'm going to get up close, and hopefully I can park it someplace so you can see what's actually happening to the fibers. This will make sense, right? So if I tuck this under my arm, and you see this is loaded with a twist, if I pinch it here and then go up a little bit on my untwisted fibers, the twist will transfer into the rest of the fibers. Okay, so I want to give you a close-up of actually what's happening. Okay, so the more twist you give it, the tighter the fibers will get, and so you're pinching, going up a bit, and letting the twist go follow up or flow into the rest of your fibers like that. So that's what's happening. You may not be able to see it from the distance that I have my camera right now, but that's what I'm doing. So I'm pinching and letting the twist, and I'm also kind of keeping a little bit of tension in here and letting the twist transfer. Just like that. Now what can happen is this will spin, and the piece that's hanging down will get kind of caught up in here. You don't want that, right? So many people will take a big long rollag and put it over their shoulder, or drape it over their hand like this, and that way that'll keep it out of the way. So I can give this, oops-a-daisy, I wasn't in the hook. I can give this a good decent spin, then park it, then let the twist work itself up. Okay, so I'm getting that far. Then what you do is now you start to roll your fibers onto your shaft of your spindle. Okay, probably about a hand's width apart. Put it in the notch or the slot, or go around the hook, add your spin, and then clamp it and let the fibers, let the twist climb up the fibers. Like so. And at this point, this is basically drafting. So as I'm parking, I'm drafting and letting the fibers work up. And if I have some stretch in my fibers, I can separate and kind of pull the fibers too to help make the strands more consistent and help transfer the twist inertia into the fibers. So you'll kind of see it kind of start to eat up your fibers as you release and let the twist happen. Okay. That. Okay. Just doing that to any shaft or bark that's out there. I'm kind of getting rid of it. All right. So now we're at a stage where we're going to let go, and I'm going to wind the spun cordage up my spindle and hook it and get ready to add or join. So I'm going to let the twist release a little bit more, and then I'll show you how the join works. So a join works, put this in so you can see. So at my end here, I've got a little fan of my cordage here. You see how loose it is? This I'm going to attach to a new rollag, and the twist is going to pick up. It's going to transfer into the new rollag, and so that's how you join or add more fibers to your yarn or your twine. Okay. So I'm going to give myself a little bit more length. I'm going to hook it, and then I'm going to grab a rollag here. Doesn't have to be a terribly long one, and I'm pinching them together, adding a spin, and letting the twist transfer or drafting it into the new addition to our twine. Pinch it and let the twist transfer. Now by the time I get through my bundle of Dogbane stocks, maybe I'll get to that point where I can make it look seamless, but that's fine. Practice makes perfect, and I'm one of those types of people, when it's something that's interesting to me, I get really tenacious about it and work at it and work at it and work at it. I guess it's the illustrator in me and also the martial artist in me. Just keep working at it till you get it right. And that's the process. That's actually the better process, because then you get to a point where you're so good at it, you forget the struggle. And it's important to always remember the struggle. So there's a lot of shaft on this, so I'm just getting rid of it. So that's essentially it. And then you wind, so that's the process. And then I'm going to add another rollag to that. Again, I got my little fan out. I'm going to add a little piece, a longer piece here. If it breaks apart, we know how to join now, which is what I'm doing right at this stage. Just adding a twist to it. And sometimes I just do it like this to control it, especially when it's this long, because I don't want to wrap the other side. Grip and let the twist transfer. Sometimes I help it along. Sometimes you can just let it transfer all the way up. Like that. And it's important to keep tension on it. as best you can. Don't want to pull it apart though, because it's a pain once you already have a twist in it to splice it in. It's possible, but it's not the best situation. And if it does happen while I'm filming this, then I'll get to show you at least how I handle it. And it seems to work okay. Oops, see, that's what we don't want. So I'm going to take this rollag in, drape it over my hand. That broke apart, that's fine. Because of the fibers that we're using. See, that almost wanted to twist into it. Drape it over my hand. Let the twist walk up. And again, this is something you can do while watching TV, listening to an audiobook, riding the bus, sitting in a boring meeting, waiting at a place that you weren't expecting to wait. Because a drop spindle, unlike a big loom, you can take with you anywhere. And you can take your rollags with you. And then if you find yourself in a place where you're kind of bored, or you got some time, you can continue to spin. And then of course you'll have looky-loos coming up and asking you all kinds of questions, wanting to interrupt you, but I don't know. That's humans, I guess. So that's it essentially. So you know, it's not perfect. I'm still a novice yet, but you know, it's a start. Okay, this is what we have so far out of that bundle that we're working on. I have a little bit more to go yet, but I wanted to show you kind of where we're ending up at. So this is how you wrap it around the spindle. Now I'm setting this aside, setting this down, but I want to wrap this around the hook a couple of times just so I can keep it from unwinding completely, so I still have my little tuft here that I can easily splice in some more pieces. But the next step to this is actually to have this set and have the twist set, and I'm gonna do that. You treat wool differently. You know, you wash it, you depending on the wool, you put it in warm water, you know, hot tap water. At that stage, I believe people dye it at that stage too, as well, or they can. But you want to take this off, and there's a way that you kind of wrap it around your hand and elbow, and then you can you know, immerse it in water, and then you know, squeeze it out, and then what we're going to do is then just have it dry overnight, and that should set the fibers into the twist. Because right now, if I undo this, it's going to want to kink up on itself because it's so tightly wound. But yeah, this is what we have, and one more step to go before it's actually quite serviceable. I have done this in the past with Dogbane, and you know, it worked just fine. You know, I just rolled it into a ball. And I can't remember what project I used, but I needed it for a project, and I just took it off the ball, cut it, knotted it, did what I did with it, and it worked just fine. So I haven't really tested the tensile strength of this yet to see, you know, at this diameter, and I was fairly consistent. I mean, there's some bumps in here. Again, I'm not a pro at this, and it is somewhat challenging to work with because of the fibers are so short once you card them out. But all in all, you know, it just turned out pretty good, I think. And so we're just going to go ahead and wash this and have it set, and then dry. I let it dry. So once we are done, here's what I have left of the Dogbane that I started out with. Like I said before, I got tons of it. We're going to extract it from the spindle so that we can soak it for a little bit, 20 or 30 minutes or so. And I'm just going to go back and forth along my fingers like this, kind of in a weaving pattern, just to take this off, and so it doesn't just tangle, because what it wants to do is, because it's twisted tightly in the clockwise direction, it wants to counter twist, and it'll knot up. It'll kind of want to kink up like that. So I'm just gonna keep it straight. Some people wrap it around their palm and their elbow for longer lengths. I could do that, but that'd be a wider shot. I'm just gonna go ahead and just do it like this, and then it's easier to extract your twine after you're done. So, you know, not as even as I'd like it to be, but yeah, like I said, practice makes perfect. Maybe the next batch of fibers I process will be a little better. I've learned quite a lot. This material has its own way of being, and I have to adapt to it. So I'm running out of finger space. I made a bit of a lot. So now we're at this juncture where the leader and the twine was attached, and so we've got to be careful because we're gonna just free our fibers from that. And I'm just using a pair of shears here to make sure you don't cut your leader. It's not that big deal if you do, because you can always just make a knot or attach another one. This one here, I'm just gonna attach a good bit away from it, or snip a good bit away from it. And then for next time's use, I'm going to undo this so that I can clean off the leader. And you know, you don't have to always do a leader depending on the type of fibers, because this could be a closed loop, and depending on the type of spindle that you're using, and you can just attach your fibers through the eye. Very similar to the way we did with the loop. So if you don't have a leader, then you would have to figure out a way to just get it to attach, you know, even if you reverse twist it for a little bit around the base of the underneath the whorl, then you could, you know, start to hook it through the groove and then hook it around. So this is where we're at. We didn't cut our leader, and I can just extract these fibers and put them in a pile for fire starting stuff, or, you know, tinder stuff or something like that. I'll always find a use for it. Okay, so that's how we free that. Now we're gonna just take this to the bathroom and soak it, or I can store it until I'm ready to do that. But this is the finished fibers we get. It looks somewhat like yarn or twine. It's very fluffy, relatively strong. It's probably weak in some places because I wasn't able to be as consistent as I wanted to be. But what I would do then is probably just take a length of this and reverse twist it together, or what they do call in the fiber arts world, the knitting world, is I would ply this. So I would take another bunch of twine or yarn that I've already spun, and then I would ply them together, and it would basically be reverse twisting, except you're using a spindle or a spinning wheel. Alright, so here is our spun Dogbane. It's in a clump, it's wet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I mean by wrapping it around your arm. Okay, so we're going to do this and we're going to let it dry that way. So because it still wants to kink on itself a bit, and this wetting it and having it sit, and I'll probably have it have a weight. We'll probably have it hung with a weight until it dries. That'll help set the fibers. But all I'm doing is I'm just wrapping it around my arm, kind of like a lasso. I can kind of let this fall to the ground a little bit, but I'm just doing this like that. Dogbane has a nice smell when it actually is wet, and native peoples in the Americas, from what I know, have made plenty of nets, lots of nets for fishing and catching birds and rabbits and things using Dogbane. It's a very strong plant fiber. So I just want to wrap it around like this. Okay, so now when we're done, we'll release it. Now some pieces will want to kink, but see, just like that. But we don't want that to happen. So we'll just keep it straight like this. And I'm gonna hold this, I'm gonna have this attached to a weight, and then I'm gonna hang it and let it dry so it doesn't wanna twirl up on us like that. Okay, and then if things go right, I'll be able to show you after it dries. I'll let it sit overnight. Trying to get a hold to this, got a mind of its own at this stage. So we'll let this sit overnight. But yeah, this is pretty strong. All bundled up, of course. So essentially I'm going to let it dry and hang just like this with a weight, and that should straighten things out, basically kind of tame the fibers and set the twist in.
Alright, so our I spun Dogbane cordage has dried, and again, to set the twist, I let it dry overnight, being hung by this weight. So when we take it off, it's not, if you remember how uncorrigible it wanted to be, it wanted to twine on itself, but it's pretty much straightened out. And I'm just going to unleash it from this little hook. These are little S hooks I make out of a hanger, because we have these little grids in our shelving in our house, so this kind of helps to hang things from. Anyways, this is what we got here, and again, I'm not really quite sure how much the tensile strength is on this. I'm gonna spin some more. As I said, I got plenty of Dogbane stocks, and till I can get some consistency, right? There's gonna be some thin spots and there's gonna be some thicker spots, and that's not what you want. So it would kind of do no good at this point to try to test how strong it is at this stage. However, I am confident that I could take some strands of this and then reverse twist them or ply them, so that their combined tensile strength combined would be a lot stronger. So hopefully more on that later, but this is what we come up with. I'm kind of happy with it, after being such a long time since I've done spinning and finally putting it on camera. Let me see here. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to roll this in a ball, and I'm going to show you how I do this real quick. I'm sorry this video is so long. It's one of the longer videos I've done, and when they're really long, I tend to split them up. I'm going to keep this as one solid chunk. Let me know if that's too much, if you like them broken up, or if you prefer smaller chunks. That would be good to know, because sometimes people don't have a lot of time to sit and watch longer videos, and I do understand sometimes. That's why I talk a lot during these videos, because someone may be doing a workout and listening to my videos or watching my videos, or someone may be driving. So a whole lot of quiet time or non-explanation probably isn't very beneficial for somebody who's doing something else while listening. Anyways, again, I'm droning on, but again, let me know if this video is too long, or if you want me to break it up into smaller chunks. I'll be right back. Okay, so what I've done is I've taken a piece of a paper towel and I just rolled it into a ball like this, and I'm just going to find my end here, and I'm just going to start wrapping it around my little ball here to get it started. So, and then I just go one direction, and then I work it so it's going the opposite direction. It kind of starts out like an X, and then as it starts to get bigger, then I can start to switch and just start to roll this into a nice little ball. So I won't show the whole complete process, but I think you get the idea. And this is how I'm going to store them. So that's essentially it. Just roll them into a ball. So here's our ball of twine that we did together and rolled into a nice little ball for storage. You know, I'd like to get lots more. This is some that I had done previously for the video, just to get some practice in. It turned out pretty well, and yeah, pretty happy with it. Anyways, like I said, it's not perfect. Still a novice at it, but I'm glad I was able to share some knowledge for inspiration. Again, let me know if you like the longer format or if you'd like my longer videos to be broken up into chunks or into easier digestible pieces. And yeah, if you found this information inspiring or useful, feel free to throw something in the tip jar. Every little bit helps. Appreciate it. Till next time.